Hi guys, welcome to another Divi theme video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Well, we've got a fun one for you today. We're looking at the Divi menu module. And of course you can build headers with it, and we've done that with our custom headers before. But you can also put menus just about anywhere on your site you want. Little menu right here with a little drop down. Got it changing color on hover there. If I roll down a bit, we've got a full width menu bar here with a centered logo. When it gets to the top, it's going to stick there. If I roll down a little bit more, got a little logo there. When I put my mouse over it, it's going to expand, give us a menu like that. Plenty of little options. We've also got one down here. Again, it's going to roll up the page. And that's going to be sticky. Little vertical menu right there. Really easy to do. So let's get starting. No coding involved in this today at all. I've got a new page open here. Let's start with this. Okay, I'm going to add a new little row. Got my builder engaged already. I'm going to put a single column in my row. And funnily enough, I'm going to use a menu module. Choose whichever menu you want. Remember, you've got to have your menus created for anybody that doesn't know how to create a menu. If you go down to your dashboard, then down to Appearance and Menus, it'll take you to this page here. You can hit Create New Menu if you haven't got any already, or you can select to edit menus up here from your existing menus here. Once you've created one, make sure you hit Save. Until then, nothing's going to show up when you look under here. Okay, well, I'm going to chuck in the same one as I had before. And let's keep this very simple. Still on the content here, I'm not going to add a logo to this one. I'm just going to give it a background. I'll use that 2424 color I've been using. And let's go over to Design, Menu Text. Active link, I'm going to make white in color. As with all things Divi, you can make the font anything you want. There's a huge amount to choose from. To audition one, just roll over it. I'm going to leave mine on the default today. But I will make it so we can see it. It might be a bit more useful. So menu text color, I'm going to make white there. That's great. You can change the size, letter spacing, etc. Give it box shadow. And choose where you want to align it. I'm going to pop mine in the middle. Great. Now, with this particular menu, it's got a drop down here. Drop down colors. That same grey that I put in there. But you can make these things any color you want. Still in the design, close up that one. Just down below, you've got the drop down menu. Here you can decide drop down menu background color, line color. It was blue. I'm not sure about that. Let's make it a slightly lighter grey perhaps. That'll work for me. Text color, active link color. And of course, the mobile menu background color. If you want to see it on mobile menu, hit the little purple button, go down to mobile. And there it is right there. For the background color, let's make that same 2424. When drop down there, there it is. Text color is absolutely fine. If you want to change that hamburger icon color, you can do so just underneath there. We've got no shopping cart because I've not got WooCommerce installed, or a search icon there I'm not showing on this one. The hamburger menu, you can make it whatever color you want. Of course, if you don't like that color, you can put in any hex code or RGBA you want right there. Great. Well, let's pop back to desktop styles. And that's a basic menu right there. And you can put that anywhere on your site. I'm going to copy that a couple of times so we've got a few different examples to work with. So I'm going to save my changes. I'm just going to duplicate it a couple of times. And that's where we're going to start off on each menu. I'm not going to restyle every one a different color. Okay, well, if we look back over here, the first little menu we had was a simple little menu that changed color on hover. And you can do the drop down also if you want to. So let's do that one. I'll use this existing one that we've got here to do that. I'm going to go into it. All I did to make that particular one was in the design, I went to spacing. I gave it a little bit more on the top and bottom. Let's try 30 pixels. I think that was a little bit too much. I think perhaps half of that. Obviously, these are entirely up to you. I hit the chain so it do exactly the same on the bottom. Then I wanted to have rounded corners, because we've been using those quite a lot on our site. So down below we've got a border here. I think I gave mine 50 pixels, make this sort of pill shaped. Just put in the 50, it'll put in the pix for you. Make sure you've got the chain checked, it'll do all sides at once. That's great. But I kind of wanted to shrink it down in size, not a whole lot more than it needs. I mean, I'm guessing that's about 400. So I think I shrank mine down to 450. If we close up border here, we can go down, or up I should say, to sizing that's just above spacing. All of this is under the design tab here. So in sizing, bring this back over a little bit. I'll show you all the logo ones when we do one with a logo in a moment. But if we roll down to where it says width here, I'm actually going to use max width, because when it shrinks down, we don't want it to be stuck at a fixed width there. So max width, I'm going to give that, I think I guessed at 450, didn't I, just now? Now it's put in a percentage sign there, which is not going to work for us. I'm going to select that and put in px for pixels. As you can see, that shrunk down. Still got a bit of space either side for us, which is great, just the size I want it. Now I think I want it in the middle of my page. And then we had it when they hover over it, we're going to get it to change color. That's very easy to do. I'm sure you might be ahead of me if you watched our backgrounds video. Backgrounds are always under the content tab. I'm just going to go in there. Common to all Divi modules, if you go into any element of a module, hover up over the dark writing there, you'll see these little icons appear. If there's an arrow there, we can create a hover state, have completely different values for desktop when the mouse is not on it. It opens up these two tabs for us. Click on the hover state, obviously that's when the mouse is on it. And you can change it to whatever color you want when they hover on it. Default time Divi takes to go from desktop to hover state is 300 milliseconds, pretty quick. I like to slow mine down for a bit of drama. You can always do that over in advance. And again, this is common to every module, row and section. You'll find transitions down there. There's a default 300 milliseconds. Let's pull it up to maybe twice that. Entirely up to you. You can scroll, you can type in a value, you can increment up and down with the little arrows there. Don't want any delay, want it to change color as soon as my mouse hits it. My transition speed curve I like to use for my hover effects is ease in, ease out. And if you just want to finish off, we could go to the design. As we've got a nice light color background, we could perhaps give it a box shadow on the bottom, lift it off just a little bit. Fantastic. So that's how to create that little one there, which was this one. Next up, you can also style your drop down the same way in the design tab if you want to. Next one we had this sticky one right here. Well, let's go back over here. We'll get rid of this one. Okay, well, I'm going to put this in a new row. So I'm going to create a new row for this one. Again, I'm going to make the row single column. I'm not going to put anything in it. I'm going to drag our existing one to save a bit of time. I'm going to drag one of these, doesn't matter which one, they're all identical there. Okay, well this time, let's go in there. I added a little logo to this. And if we go in there, just logo is under the content tab, just under the content where you select your menu there. Just hit this to add whatever image you want. There's a light version of my logo. Great. Well, that looks absolutely awful, doesn't it? Like I was saying before, if we go into our design now, not actually in logo, you can go into logo, and if you've got a square one, you can change the size and put borders on it or things. But that's not what we want today. So if I close that back up, we want to go back down to the sizing where we were before. And you saw logo width, just drag it down to the width you want it. It's a percentage at the moment. You can change that from a percentage to a pixel value if you want it to stay the same all the time. And if you want to, you can tell it can't get bigger than, make it a fixed height. You can say it can't get taller than. You can also do the same with the width. I'm happy with where it is at the moment, size-wise. Now, once you've got your logo in there and you're happy with the size of it, you can go up to layout up the top here. You can choose to have it left aligned, centered, which will be on the top there, or you can have it inline center logo, which is going to put the logo right in the middle there. Kind of nice. I'm going to leave that here for that one. Background wise, I'm going to change that background color just so it's slightly different, because it's going to stick to the bottom of our white menu here. So I'll use that default blue perhaps. Remember, backgrounds are always under content. And you don't have to restrict yourself to just having a color. You can have a gradient. You can have an image. You can even put a video back there if you want to. Use background patterns and background masks. If you're not sure about any of these, you can combine many of them. Check out our backgrounds video, part of our Divi for Beginners series. You can find that playlist down below. So let's make this thing full width. When we do that, we may have to adjust the size of our logo here because we're using a percentage on it. To make this full width, I'm going to go out of my module. So I'm going to save everything in the module. I'm actually going to go into the row itself. Green tab for a row. Going to go over to sizing, which we'll find under the design tab. I'm going to take the width up to 100%. I'm going to copy that, Control C, and paste it down below in the max width. Or you can just type 100% in the max width if you want. We've now got something that stretches the whole of the width of the screen there. Doesn't matter what device you're on, it's going to stretch the whole of the width there. That logo now is a bit too big for me, but we'll adjust that in a moment. What I wanted to do with this one, I wanted it perhaps when we get up to the top here, just stick on the top there like we did with this one here. See, it's sticking just under our main menu bar there. So let's do that. Now again, this is common to all sections, rows and modules. If you want to stick something somewhere, and I'm not being rude, go over to your advanced, go down to scroll effects. You can change it from do not stick. I'm going to have mine stick to top. Now when I roll it up, it's going to stick to the top there. Reason we've got a gap is I've got a bit of padding on this row, obviously. That's why you can see that behind. Sometimes that's a nice effect to have, a little top and bottom under your menu up there. But in this case, it's not what I want. So to get rid of that, really easy. I'm sure you're ahead of me on this. Go back to your design tab. We're still working on the row, remember. Spacing, we can just take away any padding top and bottom. Put a 0 in there, hit the chain, and now it's sticking exactly where we want it. If you wanted it to, it could stick to the top and to the bottom. I haven't got quite enough scroll room to stick it to the bottom on this. If I was to put it down here, that would work. Perhaps I'll do that in a second. So let's do that. Over in Advanced, back to our scroll effects. I'm going to stick it to the top and the bottom. Just save that. Let's move it a little further down so we've got some more scrolling room. I'm just going to drag the whole row, the green tab. Let's drop it down here. That should give us enough. If you're wondering why there's the gap at the top there, that's the actual padding on the section that we've just dropped it in. And let's go back in there and make that logo a little bit smaller, and I'll demonstrate that to stick to top and bottom. So back into the main menu settings here, over to design. Remember, the sizing is the place to shrink the logo. So it's a percentage there. Let's take it down to maybe 200 pixels, 200 px, whatever's going to work for you. Still a little bit big, maybe 150. But of course, that's entirely up to you. Great. Well, let's see if this is going to stick now. When I roll up to the top, it should stick to the top there. Great. If I roll down to the bottom, it'll stick to the bottom there. My little purple button's in the way as we've got the builder in. But you can see what I mean. It's sticking to the top and to the bottom. Great. Well, our next one, roll down a little bit. We had a little icon here, and then when you hover over the icon, it expands to reveal the menu down below. Again, really easy. I'm sure some of you are ahead of me on this. Let's go back in here. We'll delete this one that we had. Just delete the whole row. We'll go back up to those menus, and I'll use this top one right here. Again, I'll give it its own row. Let's just duplicate this whole row, and we'll delete one of these menus within each row. Okay, going into this module, I'm going to add a logo to this one. This time, I'm going to add a little round PNG file. I don't know if I mentioned before, down in the elements, you can choose to show the shopping cart icon if you've got WooCommerce installed. I don't on this one, but you can also show a search icon if you want to. I'm happy for that not to be there for this particular one. I'm going to go over to my design tab now to layout. I'm going to switch it from left aligned to centered. We've got that little logo right in the middle, or that little PNG right in the middle, and our menu down below there. And any of these, if you want to change the drop down direction, at the moment it's dropping down to the bottom, you can change it upwards. If you're going to have this sticking to the bottom, obviously you'd want that going upwards. But for this particular example, we don't need to do that. Okay, well, I want to make that logo a lot smaller. We know how to do that. That's in our sizing. Logo width, I'm going to make mine 50 pixels. So I'll type in 50 and px. If you don't do that, it'll put in that percent, as it did there. Just get rid of it, and you've got px. That's about the size I want it. Fantastic. I want a little bit of spacing on the top, so we'll close up sizing, go into spacing down below. Now let's perhaps give it 10 pixels on the top. I think that'll work for me. Great. Okay, well, all I initially want to see with this is the logo itself until they hover over it, and I want it to expand and reveal the menu. So let's close up spacing. We're going to go back into our sizing above here. I know I made that logo 50 pixels. I've got 10 pixels top. So if I was to make this 70 pixels tall, should work out for us. Let's try it. I'm going to go down to the main width, not the logo width, the main width here. I'm going to say 70 px. Great, well, that's made it 70 pixels wide. But I also want it 70 pixels tall. So there's the height. Put 70 in there also. Fantastic. Just exactly what I wanted. But I do want this in the middle of our row. Then when they hover over it, I want it to expand and be as wide as our text here. This is a different menu down below, remember. So that's about 450. And we need to make it the height we want it. And we'll adjust the row so nothing jumps up and down behind it. And if you don't understand what I'm doing, you will do when I do it here. So what I'm going to do is go back up to my width there. And again, common to all Divi modules, hover over dark writing. You'll see some icons come up. Let's go to the width we want to affect. I'm going to hit the little arrow. On desktop, I want it to be just like it is. When they hover over it, I want it to expand to, I think we used 450. That big, that's great. But of course we can't see the menu items underneath. So we need to do the same thing for the height. Make sure you hover over the height and get the little arrow up before you do this. So when they're not hovering over it, it's going to be 70, which works. Not quite sure how much we want. Let's try on hover 120 maybe. Almost. Well, in fact, just add 130. Whatever looks good to you. That's great. I'm going to give it the common rounded corners we've been using on a lot of this site, which is over here in border, just down below, still under the design tab. I'm just going to put 10 in there for 10 pixels. That works for me. Great. So when we're hovering over it, if we go back into the sizing here, we've got this. When we're not, we've got this. That's all well and good, but if you watch that little library, this little menu down below, and I click that over again, it's kind of pushing it down a little bit. So to counter that, I'm going to make the row in, I'm going to give it a fixed height or a minimum height. And I'm also going to take that background color away until they actually hover over it. So still in our menu settings here, let's go to our background. Remember, it's always under content. We'll do the same thing. get the little arrow up. For desktop, I don't want to see that background at all, so I'm going to give it a transparent color. If that is a color, I'm not sure it is, but there we are. And then when you hover over it, I want it to have that same 2424 that we had before. And again, I'm going to adjust that timing and slow it down a little bit over in advanced transitions. Again, let's make it 700 mils will do. Ease in, ease out. Perfect. And to stop the jumping, what we can do now is go into this row. If you wanted to do, you can shrink the row down to it's just the size of our icon here. It's not necessary for where I'm putting it on this page. I'm going to go into this row, the green tab, over to design and sizing. I'm going to give it a minimum height, or you could just use height if you wanted to. I'm going to give it a minimum height of 150 pixels. Now, if we go back into our little module here and expand it, it shouldn't push anything down below it. If it does, we can readjust. Still pushing it down a little bit there. Let's try adding another 50 to that row, perhaps. Let's go down to our height. Let's try giving it 150. We'll save our changes. We'll go back in here. And let's flip it over to the hover state. That's great. It hasn't moved anything down at all. Fantastic. Well, that'll work for that. We'll check it out on the front end in a moment. The last one that we actually had, if I roll on down, was a simple little vertical menu here. When you slide up, we're going to stick it to the top and have it change color there. And again, you're probably ahead of me on some of these. Really easy to do. Let's go into this menu module here. Let's just make it the size we want it. To do that, sure you know how to do that. Over in design, sizing, I'm going to shrink it down to probably 150. We'll try that, maybe enough. Once we shrink it down, it'll start stacking these on top of each other. So let's go down to width right there. Let's try 150 pixels. Let's put in percentage. Change that to px. Yeah, that's okay. I kind of want mine left aligned though. The menu text there. Let's take it down to 120 actually. I think that's going to work. They're all going to fit. I'm going to left align them and put a little bit of padding on the left also. So if we close up sizing, we've got our menu text up above here. Again, you can change any styles you want. I'm going to leave mine exactly as they are. I want mine to be left aligned. That's okay. But of course, I want a bit of padding, top, bottom, left and right. So I don't want those buffered up against the left-hand side. So down again, we'll go into our spacing, still under the design tab. Padding left, say 15 pixels maybe. Maybe up it to 20. Of course, styling is entirely up to you. That'll work for me. Top and bottom, well, let's try 20 top and bottom also. Top, bottom, fantastic. Again, border just down below, I'll give it those common 10 pixel corners we've been using. I'm actually going to put a little white border around it so that if it sticks to the top and goes over a dark area, it will still have definition. So I'm going to choose all sides at once and the border here. I'm going to make it 1 pix. I'm going to make it white in color. Now you won't be able to see it's white on white there. If I put a bit of box shadow on there, you'll be able to see it. See that little white border around there. Great. Well, I want this to be on the left hand side. I also want it to stick when it gets to the top, so it's in view at all times. And then perhaps when it's sticky, we'll have it change color also. So very easily done. Let's save what we've got here. The menu's looking like we want it to do. Let's go into the row. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a background in the row temporarily so you can see the row. So all that blue is the actual row. I'm going to shrink this row down to the size that we want it. So over in design, always find sizing. I'm going to make it 120, was it? Plus we've added a border, so it might be 122. So let's go into the width. I'll say 122. Again, it's put in percentage, so let's put in px. Great, well, that's about the right size. You can even probably go down a little bit more. And I want to take away any padding top and bottom, so that when it's sticky, it's not over the top of anything else and may stop you clicking on it. So that's very easy to do. Close up sizing. Put a 0 in the padding, top and bottom. Okay, well, I want this to be way over on the left-hand side here. So again, in sizing just above, we could have done that over here. If I roll down, row alignment, if I put it on the left there, it's right on our left-hand side. Fantastic. And that's going to stay there just like a regular module. We can take that little temporary blue color away from our row now that we've done this. Okay, like I say, we want it to stick where it is. Then when it gets up to the top here, I want it to stick under our menu just like our one we did earlier. I'm sure you remember how to do that. Over to Advanced, down to Scroll Effects. I can have it stick to top again. Great, sticking up there. I want a little bit of sticky top offset just to bring it out down from the top just a little bit. Something like that. If I roll up, you can see we've got a bit of a gap there. That works for me. If you want to bring it out from the side, you can go into the row that it's in and just give the row a bit of padding on the left-hand side there. But I also wanted that to change blue once it sticks in place. And these scroll effects, I'll do a whole video on them because there's all kind of crazy things you can do. But for the time being, let's keep it simple. So we're in the row. Like I say, if you want to take it away from the side a little bit, back to your design and spacing, give it a bit of padding on the left. Try 5 pixels. That just pulls it out from the side just a little bit there. So to make this a different color when it's sticky up the top here, very easy to do. Let's save our changes in a row. Let's go back into the module itself. Content is always where you find background. There's the color that we have. Again, if we roll up over, now that we've made this sticky, there's a little pin icon there that was not there before. If we click on this, we can have one color for where it's rolling up the site and a different color for when it sticks to the top. So let's just make it blue when it sticks to the top. Save our changes there. Roll it up the site. When it gets to the top, as you can see, it's going to change to blue. Fantastic. Well, let's just save our changes here. Make sure all these are going to work on the front end. Save draft or publish if you're ready. Let's exit the visual builder. And there's our little icon one. We deleted the little pill shape one and the sticky top one. When we hover over that, it's going to expand. You can go click on your elements. And we got our little sticky one over here. When we roll up, it's going to stick there and change color and stay there. So there you go, guys. There's 4 little interesting things you can do with the Divi menu module. Like I say, pop them anywhere on your site. You can get some great things going. Really easy to do. There's our sticky full width one. There's our little icon. And down here is our sticky and change color one up there. So I hope you've enjoyed this today and found it useful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, ring the bell, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Once again, this has been Jamie from System 22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.